Something happened with the broadcast. Sorry if no one got audio there.
gonna stop this line of thought because I don't actually know that it's going somewhere useful, and I know that it's a relatively short time call, so I don't want to like keep on rambling. Yeah. So if there are more specific questions about consulting, I'm happy to give them, but just generally, trying to get involved in the community before you make a big leap, and trying out the sort of work that you might want to do as a consultant is a useful way to both contribute to the community, but also get some experience and a sense of whether you'd actually like the process of like doing development work.
Well, thank you, Shauna. That's actually some really great advice to get people started if they're interested in potentially seeing and testing out if the consulting might be an area that they're interested in. Thank you very much for speaking to us both about Lil RR as well as your consulting work. We really appreciate it. Again,
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. If anyone else has any more questions for Shauna, please feel free to put them under line 77 in the Etherpad. And Shauna, please feel free to answer those in the Etherpad if more come in. So thanks again.
I will keep an eye on it.
Perfect, thank you. So what we're going to move along to now, if we go down to line 98 in the Etherpad, we're going to do a check-in with the study group leaders that are here today and want to provide updates. So if you are a study group leader just showing up for the call, please enter some information under line 98 if you want to give us an update. So we're just going to start at the top of the list there. So we have the CERN study group from Switzerland, and I'm not sure who is the study group leader for this group. So if you're on the call, can you please speak up?
So I think, sorry, this is Aurelia. I'm just chiming in. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay, sweet. So CERN is actually running their Jupyter workshop right now. Their study group times now. So they weren't able to join, but they wanted to throw it into the pad, and so I pasted it in for them. And it's Chintia and Patricia and Tim and some other folks from CERN and from the surrounding area who are all contributing to the same study group. And hopefully they're going to move their time so they can make the next call, but they weren't able to for this round. So I just wanted to show their lesson and stuff.
Very cool. And I think, from what I know, they're a very new study group, yes?
Yeah, they just forked a little while ago, right after WOW, about the Working Open workshop in Berlin. They forked it. Actually, I think there had been some interest at CERN in doing a study group, and they sort of piloted it, but it wasn't driven by a group who was there all the time. So now they have more of an operation and regular events and stuff, and everybody, I guess, is avoiding their dissertation by running their study group.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So we'll move on to Simon Fraser, but just before we do that, Amy has a question in the Etherpad that maybe Abby or Aurelia you could answer. It's technically about how to mute or unmute on the telephone if you call in. So if you could maybe answer her in the chat of the Etherpad, that would be fantastic. So I'm the study group leader from Simon Fraser University. Again, my name's Tiffany Timbers. And Simon Fraser University, we're located in Burnaby, BC, Canada. And so that's just right outside of Vancouver. And so updates, we've just been holding our regular study group meetups every week. So we rotate between having a lead session on some topic that somebody's volunteered to teach. We're polyglots, so we do some R, but we do other languages as well. And then we have co-working sessions on the other weeks where people just bring their own work to work on, and we do that together. The lead sessions have actually had a great increase in participation since we had a research bazaar happen at Simon Fraser University in February. So that's been really fantastic. Unfortunately, the co-working sessions are still not really being well attended and utilized. So we might have to maybe not have them in the future because people aren't coming. So that's, and I don't know how to make people come. If anyone has any suggestions on how they've got that happening at their event or their university or location, I'd be interested in hearing that, as well as, or if they've also decided to kind of scrap the co-working sessions because they just don't have people come to that. I would also be interested in that. The other thing that we're doing, which is I think going really well, and people might be interested if you're in the, particularly if you're in the biological sciences, is the data-intensive biology training workshops that Titus Brown from UC Davis is putting on. So I put the link here to the DIB training, the Read the Docs website, that has a list of all the upcoming workshops that's going on. So essentially, Titus has the thoughts that, you know, there are very many great amount of knowledge in technology and coding and open science practices spread out across geographical regions, and maybe we don't need to like fly in to do workshop training to meet these people. Can we teach remotely, but do it in a really effective way? Because remote teaching doesn't always work necessarily the best. So the way that he's structured these is that they are 3-hour half-day workshops, and somebody teaches locally in the room to their group of people, but then through Google Hangouts, it gets broadcast to potentially 1 or 2 other remote sites, where there is not only a group of learners, but there are TAs that are very familiar with the material, so that they're able to support the learning. The rooms are all in communication with each other, so that nobody really falls behind. So we did one of these half-day workshops on regular expressions, where I taught the session, and we broadcast to Ontario as well as UC Davis. And then on Monday, we're doing another one where we're going to be the remote site this time, and they're broadcasting from UC Davis to us at SFU and one other site. So they're pretty cool. Titus is definitely open for more people being remote sites. So if you're interested in this, please check out the DIB training website link on line 102. And if there's any topics that you guys want to participate in, send him or Jessica an email, and they'll be more than happy to have you guys be as remote sites. So Amy's got some comments for me. Thank you on the co-working sessions. Amy, do you want to say anything out loud, or?
Yeah, sure. So in general, we use the co-working sessions as kind of placeholders to accommodate people last minute. So if we have last minute speakers or whatever, we've kept them so that when we started planning the session, we had schedules for every other week, and then we inserted the co-working sessions in there. And what we found, especially in this semester, I guess as people's schedules change, a lot of our co-working sessions actually became instructor-led sessions as we went along. So that's been helpful to have that wiggle room in our scheduling. And then last semester, when we didn't have co-working session as regularly, we found that, the weeks that there was nothing kind of planned, not even co-working session, the following weeks, we kind of lose momentum and people stop showing up to those regular meetings. So we've just kept them in there as a way of, blocking that schedule in people's calendar.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. That gives me some good food for thought, that maybe we can have co-working sessions and then just still think of if there's anything last minute that we can do that could be a little bit more engaging than just everyone working quietly in a room. Thanks.
So have you sort of asked your attendee, why they may or may not be interested in co-working sessions? Because I find a lot of the people who do come, so I find a lot of people who do come to the co-working session, like they have fairly specific projects, and it's kind of a good way for them to get feedback. Mm-hmm. So people do bring their work and just kind of hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, we just haven't really built the community with co-working sessions. Like sometimes we have one person show up or two, and so they're really low. So it's kind of difficult to ask people. But maybe we could do that at a lead session, ask them why they're not coming to co-working sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
One thing Yeah, and one thing I really liked was something that Bill started, was that whenever he ran co-working session, he always kind of start at the beginning, like while everyone's settling down, like have people talk about what they're there to work on, what's the problem they're trying to solve, and, whatever language they want to code in, and sort of warm up the room in that way. And so it felt like a community in that sense, so that's been helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we try and do that too again, but it's just not getting anyone coming out. But we'll
people showing
check
up.
it. Yeah. So it's hard to warm up an empty room.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, thank you for your feedback. That's all really great. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Boston University Study Group. Hugh's here from Boston, who can check in and let us know what you're doing. Right, so if we don't have anyone from Boston, let's move over to the U of T Scientific Coders. Do we have anyone here from U of T? All right, I'm actually going to pass it back to Amy then. Amy, do you want to comment on what you've been doing at the UBC study group?
So we've just been trying out a new time. So I guess now what we do is every semester we take a doodle poll, and we have a completely new time. And the session's just been chugging along. It's been running fairly well. So now we have our first mini R symposium that sort of sprouted very organically. We knew kind of last minute that Oliver Keys, who works for Wiki, will be, he's a data scientist for them, will be sort of in the Vancouver area, and Jenny Bryan managed to sort of rope him in to talk to the R group. So from there, people were really interested in developing some sort of symposium. So we have a bunch of guest speakers lined up, and what we decided to do is to sort of bring in some institutional support from the library. And so we're going to be collaborating with the Research Commons, since we're expecting a slightly larger turnout. And so that's happening on April 4th. So hopefully anyone who is in the Vancouver area, please come out. It's going to be really fun. And there will be beers.
Very
after
cool.
the last talk. Mm-hmm.
SFU will definitely be coming across. Are there any plans to broadcast any of these talks so that the other study group community people can check in if they're interested?
Yeah, so I'll chat with Oliver and Rich for sure, and I'm sure Simon probably will be interested as well. So I think it just depends on whether or not the speakers are willing to broadcast. But yeah, we'll definitely give that a try.
Cool. Anything else going on there, or is that everything?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing, Amy. That our little mini symposium sounds really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to that.
Hope to see you here.
I definitely will be there. So UMN, study group. Do we have a member from them here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Is that you?
Perfect.
Is it Rob?
Yes, my name's Rob. I'm the UMN study group leader. We've been just chugging along, trying to keep things consistent. We're also having some of the same difficulties with people being interested in the topics, or trying not to force things. So we're keeping it very casual. When we ask people to present, we try and emphasize that they don't have to put a lot into it. We can sort of just show up, work together, just bring your laptop and just talk about, you don't have to explain the tool, but just sort of explain your experience with it. So a couple of the topics that we've covered, and these were just topics people chose. We just gave them free reign. Docker, so just experiences with that. And we were actually, a little fun tidbit from that one, we were able to make it was a 300 megabyte error log file from like a 4K Docker file, which was kind of fun. We've gone over like testing best practices with PyTest, so there's a lot of Python users. I'm just trying to get some better best practices with writing Python code in the science community. And then some other web-based stuff like Jekyll. Git LFS is really fun. And next week we're going over the mean stack, which is I think it's all JavaScript based, or it's all web based at least. So someone has had a lot of experience in that, so looking forward to that.
Cool. I really like the idea, or not the idea, but the message you send out about not necessarily having to be an expert in a tool, not having to teach the tool, but just talk about their experience with the tool. That is probably a really great way to get other people to engage and help deal with people's imposter syndrome and not feeling necessarily qualified enough or experienced enough to teach something. I'm going to definitely hijack that strategy for trying to get more people to participate and lead sessions at our group. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, anything else going on at UMN that you wanted to mention?
That about covers it. We're sort of coming up at the end of the semester, so we're going to try and decide what we're going to do over the summer, but I think we're going to try and keep it casual, keep it going, and we've had a good core group of 4 or 5 people who've been showing up. We're also entertaining ideas to get other labs involved, people from other research areas too. So
cool. Great. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for sharing with us. So we'll move on to the next study group. So UOJ. Who's from UOJ?
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Yep.
Yeah, I'm Nicholas from UOJ study group from University of Jaffna. Actually, this is the time for semester examination, so people are so busy, so there is no chance to arrange an event and they are going to do speeches. So we might change slightly with the concept of study group to discussion group. We have making studies through this study group by mixture of discussion topics. Tomorrow we have planned to discuss about syntax analysis and compiler design, and we are doing machine learning and system analysis and design. So many topics will be discussed as a discussion group. It's slightly different from the study group concept.
Cool.
That's it.
We have a question on the Etherpad for you, and so it says that on the Etherpad you wrote that you're doing a syntax analysis collaborative discussion tomorrow, and you're being asked in syntax in what language will you be discussing?
Yeah, it's in common, that is compiler design, under the compiler design.
Having a bit trouble hearing you. Maybe you could just type in the Etherpad as well. What language? That'd be great. And you're hoping to have 10 to 15 people. That sounds like a great number to have out for a study group. Awesome. So have you been getting that many people out to other discussion groups?
Yeah, in Java discussion groups, we have around 25 people, because it's a university, so many people want to work with us.
Great. Yeah, I really also like the idea of a discussion group. That's another great way to great way to use the study group time. And again, you don't have that necessarily intimidation factor of somebody having to get up in front of everybody and lead a session for an entire hour. So if you have a topic that everybody's getting along or everyone's using or has some experience with, or having some problems with, a discussion group's a really fantastic idea. Thank you so much, Nifras, for sharing that idea with us. That's awesome. Okay, maybe go back. So Tom is back on the phone. Great. Thanks for joining us again. So what line on the Etherpad is that?
109, I believe.
109. Okay, so this is from the Boston study group. Great. So
Yeah, sorry about that. It was great timing. It's been my morning so far today, right there, summed up. We're doing all right. We're just kind of chugging through some lessons. We haven't been great about getting them back into the repository. So the last couple have been on Docker and Vagrant, and then we did one on Jekyll that we didn't get a lot of attendance because we'd kind of done that one already, and there was a scheduling conflict. So, but we're kind of keeping going. We have a few more, planned for the semester. We're kind of at that point, at least last semester, where attendance started to drop off a little bit, but we're still getting about 7 or 8 people to show up with some decent variation. There's definitely a core group of like 3 people who will always be there, but then the other 4 seem to be kind of, a couple are different, a couple are familiar, but they don't make it all the time, that kind of stuff. So, but we're doing pretty well, I think. Coming up we have somebody's going to do a session on using Julia, and then we have a session on R Shiny coming up, and then Reveal.js, and then we have a couple of just scheduled co-working sessions that we've been kind of throwing them in there, and then they usually get filled up if somebody gets an idea. And then I think at some point closer to the end of the semester, we're going to do a session as kind of like an assessment of things to improve on and, ideas for increasing involvement, and then hopefully end the semester with like a lightning talk session. So that's kind of what we're thinking. I'm really sad that I missed the UBC update because I wanted to hear about that mini R symposium, but I guess I'll have to watch the recording. So
there you go. And I think there's a link there Amy's got for to the issue that's discussing that upcoming symposium, which may, they're still deciding, be webcast. So that would be really cool.
Okay, that'd be great because there's been talking with some people who they wanted to set up sort of an onboarding for doing computational research at BU for new PhDs, and they never got it off the ground last summer. So it's something that we've been thinking about, the library and a few other groups kind of coordinating and doing. So I'm curious how that goes. They're thinking like a 2 or 3 day kind of boot camp session that would go over, maybe a language or 2, and then, some of the unique infrastructure. Like we have a high computing center that, has, just sort of stuff people want to know how to get set up, and, they have introductory tutorials, but it'd be nice if the students could start the semester already prepared and ready to go. So
that's a fantastic idea. That's great.
That's where we're at.
Cool. Sounds like you've got some great stuff going on and great ideas. Amy says in the chat to you, she's got a message for you in the chat about, you can talk to her directly more about the R study group mini R symposium that's coming up at UBC. Awesome. So I think we've checked in with everybody who's written down that they would like to give an update under study group updates. Is there anybody else who hasn't put their study group down but wants to chat about it? Please go ahead. All right. If not, so I guess next, Aurelia, line 140 on the Etherpad. These are new R lessons. Sorry, I'm not sure. Did you want to can I hand it back to you at this point?
Sure, yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
It's okay? All right, good. Yeah, I know it's a lot of pink text, so it's a lot of things I put in, but I thought on the last call we kind of suggested doing like maybe thematic calls, or where we have a focus on certain lessons to see if anybody has updates on certain languages or certain events they posted. And I just picked R because that seems something that everybody has a little bit on. So I put in a bunch of examples. I included Jeff from Rhode Island's R stats workshop which looked really awesome and robust, but he has kid duty today, so he couldn't join. So that's on line 141, and then I linked to the study group lessons because there's a lot of core lessons there in R that maybe people have already used. So on line like 146, if you want to +1 certain lessons, or say like, oh, I really like this one, or I tried this one and it's outdated, like any feedback from that would be great. I know there's also in the issues, a lot of people post lessons too that haven't yet been integrated as submodules into the Science Lab study group lessons. So if you have any from there that you perused and thought were great and worked off of, feel free to add those too. And then below that, there's just a bunch of different R curriculum that I found online or that I used for my Girl Develop It classes, or there's also some like tutorials that aren't really lessons, but if you read through them, you could modify them and make them into events and programs. Some more topical ones, some that are based on election stuff, so maybe it's not germane to everybody who's outside the US, but there's a lot of people doing interesting things with election data in the US right now in R. And then I included some podcasts at the bottom below the tools around line 166, just because sometimes, I mean, I don't use R regularly anymore. I haven't used it much since school, but sometimes I just listen to podcasts to hear what people are talking about in it so that I can feel up to speed. And sometimes they have really great links or ideas, like The Little R came to me through a friend of a friend who runs a podcast who was like, oh, you should check out Shauna's work. Like, this is a really cool project. So I found out about a lot of little things through those podcasts, and it's very easy to like just white noise that in the background while you're working and stay topical on what the terms are and everything. And I also starred things, like on line 161 is starred, and there's a little star right before line 152, because sometimes people who are Python folks, you know, they don't do lessons in R because they're not as familiar. Like Shauna had mentioned, she's more a Python person. But there's a lot of like conversion tutorials that show you, you know, what are things in Python that you can also do in R, or how is it done in R, and what's the syntax for it. So sometimes that's a really great place to start too. And I also wanted people to add things, so don't feel like, oh, there's so much, I don't want to add anything, or you know, it just is too dense. I was going to make it all white text so that no one would feel like it's too much from one person, but then I was like, oh, no time. So feel free to add lessons too to that list. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Those are great resources, and I definitely will be checking out several of them that you have posted up there, so thank you very much. And then in the chat, Tom is asking a question. He's pointing to the Mozilla Science study, from the Mozilla Science Study Group repo or website, the code review guide, and asking has anyone used it? And I haven't used it, but I definitely will be using it, because not through our study group, but I'm getting together a group that is doing a lot of coding, but not necessarily, we're all coding around the same data set, but none of us are collaborating. A couple different labs, and we are local, and we're gonna meet together locally and start doing code reviews. And none of us are trained programmers, so none of us have done really code reviews before, so we will definitely be using this, and so after that I can give some feedback on it. But has anyone used it already, and maybe could give me some advice with using this, or Tom?
I'm sorry. This is Aurelia. Can you hear me again?
Yeah.
Okay. I looked through it when I joined, actually. I didn't know that was a resource available. And I used a bit of it for our Girl Develop It code and coffee sessions, because we kind of had the same issue with people just not attending sessions that were more casual and more about networking and stuff, or people would show up and wouldn't bring computers, and it was like, okay, this clearly is not going to be a working session, it's just going to be people chatting. Yeah. So we started to impose, not impose, but offer code review, and we would bring in like 1 or 2 programmers who specialize in that, because a lot of our students are just learning and they don't feel like they could give anyone else advice because they're not that proficient either. And everybody was kind of at a consensus of a stopping point at certain errors, because nobody there was an expert. So having non-experts help each other sometimes won't get you very far after a certain point. So we would offer, like, you could sign up for 15-minute slots for code review. And I took some of the pointers from that code review, Mozilla Science code review lesson to inform how we do code review from now on. And it actually worked out really well. We had people that would never attend our co-working sessions that started coming because they knew that was an option and that they'd get, some safe space for 15 minutes or 10 minutes with somebody who could point out, like, oh, you should do research on this error, or you should, like, look it up here and see if you can find it. And it's surprising how helpful, like, 10 minutes can be of kind of unstructured time with someone who is an expert. And I don't know what it's like in other places. I mean, I know there are programmers everywhere, but we have a bunch in New York who are always, like, trying to do volunteer things and trying to help out with the community. And lots of companies encourage their, we have a bunch of GitHub people here who are really helpful and volunteer their time with Girl Develop It to help out our students. So I'm sure there's, like, some organizations or companies you could reach out to and say, hey, we have a study group and we'd love to, bring in some of your developers to just sit down with some of our students or some of our folks and see if they can help them. Oh, I wonder if Tiffany was frozen. Oh no. Well, hopefully she'll rejoin. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool. I think she'll rejoin in a minute. I'm not sure if that comment was helpful.
Yeah, that was great.
It was really great because it's something that people have requested a few times, and I'm like, I need something to help me with. And so I was, Googling around as one would for these kinds of things and digging around in Mozilla stuff, and I found it. And when I hadn't really thought about it, because I found it earlier this week, and then I was like, oh, I got to come back to that. And then you had all these guides and stuff that popped back in my mind. I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody's used that. So that was really, really helpful.
There's also a user experience or UX one too, I think, or user testing that we should do more of those, because I think it's like for structuring the networking time, it's really helpful to have something else in addition to just meeting up. And if we had more of those kind of like lessons where everyone could check in about the user experience of their project, or they could check in about code review, and sometimes too. It's surprising how much you can do to help people in a code review scenario that you don't realize you're qualified to do. Like, I used to be really, when I was a student, I took like one class in PHP, and then my advisor was like, you should be, offering time to the undergraduates to help out. And I was like, I know nothing. I cannot help with this. I barely know how to make one project. But then you show up and the students know less than you do, and all they need is someone to show them, how to find it in the docs, or like how to do some basic research to debug. And so code review can really be instructive about even how much you know as a reviewer, how much you can help people. I think it's a great thing to do.
Awesome. I got kicked off the call for part of it, so I'll have to watch that, the second half of what you said. But the first half and the very end was really useful. And so that's really great. Thank you, Aurelia. Sorry, Tom, I think I cut you off. Cool. So we're up at the top of the hour. If anyone has any burning questions, we have 2 minutes left. Nope. Okay. So I think, Aurelia, it's good if we say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, totally. I have some updates from the last call on line 172 if you just want to read through those and give your opinions about things. We tried to hang out on air for the session, and Abby helped out with that. So hopefully we'll have like a half recording of this session that will be available to everyone. So that's great. Also, I wanted to call out that in our monthly newsletter now, right after the community calls, which are the second week of every month, we're featuring a study group lead. And just having you put the link to your study group and what the upcoming event is and how you came to start a study group. So if you'd like to sign up for that, which I would love, I'd be so happy.
I'd be really excited if you would do that. Otherwise, I will reach out to you and ask you to do it. But it'd be really nice to have volunteers. So that's around line 189, 88-ish. So if you are willing to be like kind of interviewed for a 1-paragraph summary of what you're up to, that would be rad. And the next call is like April Fools, so that's exciting. We'll have some, I don't know what the theme is going to be yet. We suggested, or Caitlin suggested, that we might do something on BioJulia or on Julia, so as a theme. So if that is of interest to you, please put a comment around line 195. And if you'd like to MC the call, which also I would love. Otherwise, I will just reach out to people, but it would be nice to have volunteers. So that's it, and thank you so much for staying 3 minutes after.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.